It powered America's farms, it towed broken dreams across dusty highways, and it outlived engines 10 times its price. But buried deep in its cast-iron heart lay a secret so powerful, Ford tried to bury it. This is the untold story of the Ford 300 Inline-6, a story of grit, genius, and a hidden legacy that refused to die. Picture this: America, the mid-1960s, the golden age of horsepower. Detroit was a battlefield, chrome flashing, pistons screaming, and pride on the line. Ford, Chevy, Dodge, all fighting to outmuscle each other with V8 thunder. But while headlines raved about Mustangs and Camaros, deep inside Ford's quiet factories, a different kind of engine was being forged, not built for fame, but for forever. The engineers who worked on it didn't wear racing jackets. They wore oil-stained coveralls. Their mission wasn't to win trophies. It was to build something that could outlast war, weather, and time itself. They called it simply the 300 Inline-6. The 300 wasn't glamorous. It didn't roar. It growled. It didn't scream down racetracks. It hauled hay bales, pulled tractors, and carried entire livelihoods on its back. From the first moment it rolled off the line in 1965, the 306 wasn't about numbers on a brochure. It was about trust, and for the next 3 decades, it would become the backbone of the working man's America. Built with a solid cast-iron block and head, 7 massive main bearings, and a crankshaft so overbuilt it looks like it came from a diesel, the 300 was pure industrial strength. It wasn't designed for speed, it was designed for survival. Farmers, truckers, linemen, and mechanics loved it because it just refused to die. They gave it a nickname: God's Anvil. Because no matter how hard you hit it, it never broke. By the late 1960s, Ford trucks were everywhere. F-100s, F-250s, Econolines, generators, forklifts, even irrigation pumps. And under the hood of so many of them sat the humble straight six, ticking away like a mechanical heartbeat. It didn't care if it was fed the cheapest gas, the dirtiest oil, or no oil at all. It just kept running. Stories began to spread, farmers claiming their 300s had run 500,000 miles without ever being opened.
You could fill it with mud instead of oil, it'd still start.
And they weren't wrong. Torquey came on early, a broad, flat wave that could pull a barn off its foundation. While other engines needed revs to make power, the 300 just leaned into its strength. Raw, low-end grunt. That's why truckers loved it. That's why mechanics trusted it. It was honest. But inside that honesty, there was a secret. Because while Ford marketed the 300 as a farm truck motor, a workhorse, there were whispers. In garages, in back alley drag strips, and even in Ford's own engineering labs. Rumors that this simple 6-cylinder had a wild side. You see, the design was deceptively brilliant. Long stroke, perfect balance, bulletproof bottom end. It was built like a race engine that just didn't know it yet. Some Ford engineers after hours began experimenting. Quietly. They bolted on twin carbs, machined high-compression pistons, built custom headers, and when they fired it up, it didn't just rumble, it roared. What they discovered shocked them. That tractor motor could spin, smoothly, powerfully. With the right tuning, it could outrun small-block V8s that cost twice as much, torque so violent it snapped drive shafts, durability so ridiculous it made competitors furious.
That old 6 pulled harder than a Baptist preacher on Sunday.
But Ford's corporate office didn't laugh. Because while their engineers were uncovering potential, the marketing department was selling dreams. The late 60s were the glory days of Ford's V8 image. The 289 Hypo, the 302, the Boss 429, and the mighty 427 FE. Those were the poster engines, the moneymakers. The 300 didn't fit the image. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't sexy, it didn't belong on billboards. So Ford buried it. Quietly, no ads, no fanfare, just continued production, silently keeping America moving while the V8s grabbed the spotlight. But word of mouth is a powerful thing. While Ford's commercials chased horsepower glory, the 300 was building something bigger, a reputation. By the 1970s, when fuel crises hit and emissions rules strangled performance, the big V8s started choking. Power dropped, reliability suffered. But the 300? It just kept working. While others gasped for breath under smog pumps and catalytic converters, this Iron 6 idled like it didn't care. Ford even gave it new life in the heavy-duty F-Series, the E-Series vans, and even in industrial machinery. The 300 became Ford's secret weapon, a silent soldier that never quit. It found its way into airport tugs, motorhomes, tractors, boats, and even race boats. And in every corner of the country, from Alaska to Alabama, somebody was depending on a 300 to start in the cold, pull through the mud, or get the job done one more day. Then came the 1980s, a decade of change. Computers, emissions, fuel injection. The automotive world was modernizing fast. And yet, through all of it, the 300 stayed stubbornly old school. Same block, same design, same philosophy. Just work. Ford added electronic ignition, fuel injection, and better efficiency. But at its core, it was still that same anvil-tough engine from 1965. Truck owners bragged about crossing 500,000 miles on the original motor. Fleet mechanics told stories of delivery vans running day and night for years without major service. It wasn't just reliable, it was practically immortal. But while the rest of the world moved toward aluminum blocks and high-tech sensors, the 300 remained cast iron, heavy, honest, and stubbornly simple. That's what people loved about it. It didn't lie. It didn't need computers to run. You could fix it with a wrench, a hammer, and a prayer. It became a symbol of a time when machines were built for men who worked with their hands. By the time Ford finally decided to retire the 300 in 1996, it wasn't because it had failed. It was because everything else had changed. The new Triton V8s were lighter, more modern, and cleaner on paper. But ask any old mechanic which one they trusted more, and they'd just laugh. When the last 300 rolled off the line, something deeper happened. People didn't move on. They started collecting them, rebuilding them, swapping them into everything from vintage F-100s to rock crawlers and drag trucks. A cult was born. A brotherhood of believers in the indestructible straight six. Online forums lit up. Inline 300 forever. 6 in a row, ready to tow. Mechanics swapped tuning secrets. Racers posted dyno charts proving what Ford never admitted, that with the right setup, that old 6 could make 400 horsepower and live to tell the tale. Because the 300 wasn't just metal and bolts. It was a statement. A reminder of when things were made to last, when strength mattered more than shine, when toughness didn't need advertising. It reminded America of something we'd lost, that sense of mechanical honesty. And even now, decades later, when one of those engines rumbles to life after years of silence, you can feel it. That heartbeat of American grit, that whisper that says, hard work, done right, never dies. So the next time you see an old Ford truck chugging down a back road, rust on the fenders, dents on the bed, don't just see age. You're looking at history, a living monument to endurance, a machine that outlived its makers, an engine that refused to quit when everything else did. That's the spirit of the Ford 300 Inline 6, the unsung hero that worked in silence, but roared louder than anyone expected. If you believe legends like this deserve to be remembered, hit that like button, share this story with someone who loves real engines, and subscribe for more untold American machine stories. Because some engines were built to run forever, and their stories deserve the same.